shows up.
All right, we will be live soon.
Daniel, do you have anything fun and
You're now
furry
live.
around you this morning?
No, they're locked in the living room.
That's no fun.
Hopefully not looking out any windows.
Right, I believe we are
We're
on.
live.
All right, we are live.
So, good morning, everybody. We aren't sure that you can hear or see us. Somebody chat screen that I still can't see the screen.
No, I can't see a screen. I can just see us.
No, I can't see Dan either.
Damn
All
it.
right. I think he has disappeared.
Matthew, you might just need to read the questions.
All right, so it's going to take me just a moment to get the thing pulled up here. Give me just one moment. I apologize.
Looking out Megan and Janine's windows, you're having the same weather we are here in Stanley.
It's terrible. It's very loud. I'm so sorry. It's like thundering and lightning out there.
It was doing that during the keynote, and I thought, oh, I hope that passes on by.
They're saying they can see the presenters, but they can see us.
Okay, but just can't see our shared screen yet.
No.
All right, I'm trying to find the presentation. I should have. So it'll just take me one moment.
The same in Kingston.
All right, I've got the. Now I'm going to try to share my screen. All right, I am sharing my screen. Is it sharing for everyone?
Yes.
All right, so I will welcome everyone to our panel discussion today. We have some technical issues as the rain has settled in on the state of North Carolina and slowed some internet connections down. This is promising practices to increase measurable skill gains across educational functioning levels. And it is moderated by Dan Logus, but also Matthew Brown. And we are at the work in the professional development and distant education section of the career and college readiness at the system office. All right. With us today is Megan Stanley, the data assessment coordinator from Brunswick Community College, Michelle Hall from Coastal Carolina, who's the director of CCR and academic studies, Melinda Bowers from Stanley Community College, who is the director of CCR, and Janine Malinando, excuse me for that, director of ESOL at Wake Tech. And so we will just jump right in as we go along. If you want to put questions into the chat, we encourage that, and we will get to those as we come to those stopping points. So for the first one, this is for the group. If you would please share your strategies for your college's utilization, or how it utilizes to obtain MSG goals. So who would like to go first?
I can start. I feel like many of us do that. I believe in the power of teamwork, that we're better together. I think that it's not just individual colleges, but our whole community college system, and that we can all learn from each other. So I'm really thrilled to have this panel today, coming together in forums like this. I think for me, the root is communication and collaboration, developing that quality team of professionals that then works together in kind of a 2 or 3-prong approach. With on the instructional side, I think that it's hiring quality instructors, including some of our own graduates. I think it's investing in the instructional team, your teachers as well as your supervisors, being responsive to their needs and feedback, providing professional development that bridges all the mandates that we all have to juggle, as well as the needs, and providing for professional sharing opportunities. as we're all mandated to do, also supporting the work of the workplace and contextualized instruction through daily lesson plans and syllabi, setting expectations for students. And I also think that with the assessment piece, because again, I said it was instructional as well as assessment, is making sure you have an effective and appropriate assessment to measure the student results that you're working so hard to get. Along with assessment, I think it's pulling the data. I feel like we pull data all the time. And that data is from colleagues, it's the Tableau data, it's the XCES, the XATT, and then because of how those reports are pulled and the size of our college, we've had to create some other live Excels that feed off of the Informer information so that we can break it down to get to those core pieces. So I think that's where I'd start us off.
And I mean, that's excellent. I'd like to piggyback off of what Janine said. She talked about, you know, the instructors and the students. And we all know that, you know, post-testing is our, you know, biggest form of MSG, but we can't forget about the others. For instance, you know, make sure that your students that are in the process of testing to get their high school equivalency, try to get it done by June 30th, right? There's nothing worse than spending 2 years working with a student. They start testing June and finish it, you know, July 3rd. And, you know, great for that student and we're really happy for them, but we don't get that MSG. And that happens to us every year. It happened to us this year. So we really do try to push those students to graduate, one by graduation, because we have graduation mid-May. And if they don't make it by graduation date, we try to, you know, push them to get it done by June 30th. And I will add to what Janine said about assessment. You know, picking the best assessment for your program is really important. For instance, we use TABE across the board here. I've only been here 2 years. When I first started, we were using CASAS and ESL. In 1920, our ESL MSG rate was 37%. I switched us over to TABE Class E, and this past year we are at 65%. So I think it's really important to find whatever assessment, you know, works for you and your institution.
Absolutely. Communication is your major thing that you need to make sure you have, not only with your instructors, but also with your retention people. It's so vitally important because you can see that they have enough hours to test, but they may or may not be ready. So I try to really communicate with our instructors closely on that. Also, utilizing the reports, as you said, the no post-test report I run that at least twice, if not 3 times a week, typically, because that's a real easy way to be tracking those students, making sure that attendance is put in correctly and regularly. That is key, because if you don't know they have enough hours to test, you can't test them. So that's major. But those are the main things that we utilize, along with, like you said, you know, instructional, you know, quality instructors, things like that. But I would have to say that communication is probably your main focus to ensure that they're ready. You don't just test them because they have enough hours. I mean, you definitely want to try, but you need to communicate with your instructors.
Well, and we are very good about keeping in contact with the students all along their journey. And so that goes right in with what you all have been saying about communication. And so when we see that they're nearing that time, we'll start saying, you know, you need to go ahead and schedule your test because, you know, you've almost hit your 60 hours and in that grade and oh my goodness. And, you know, really staying on top of those hours, because like you said, if you don't know they've hit 60, you're not going to be able to post test and you're not going to get that MSG that could just be sitting right there waiting on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for those wonderful answers, and we will continue. In light of the pandemic, and I'm guessing a drop in the enrollment, what specifically is your college doing to ensure MSGs are made?
Contact with students. Don't let them leave.
Yeah.
Just that phone, and we've even gone to snail mail, emails, just trying to stay on top of them as much as we possibly can. We have several elderly students who are still afraid to come back. They've been vaccinated, so we just try to encourage them as much as we can to muddle through online, trying to really reassure them that, as of fall, things are going to be back to normal. Please come back. We take care of it, all the cleaning, everything that needs to be done to, assure their safety. But just really that contact with them and just letting them know we're still here and school's still going and we'd love to have you. And, just don't let them get lost.
I'd like to add, everyone's talking about communication, and we know that's the key. We have found that most of our students communicate best through texting. So we do a lot of that. We get a better response from students by texting. Sometimes the emails will sit, in their email for days. And if they answer, it's very canned, but a text, they seem to answer right away. And we actually get, a better answer and better response through that method. And I think, what are we doing to ensure MSGs are made? A variety of classes. I mean, we are back-seated and have been for quite a while, but you also need to keep those seated students engaged with a variety of teaching methods, hands-on, small group, peer testing or peer teaching, use of technology in the classroom, just a well-rounded program. Make sure you have those distance ed options for those students who cannot come back, don't want to come back, have their kids at home. So really in today's age, we've learned nothing else, a really, really well-rounded program with communication being the key.
Right.
Michelle, there's a question for you about the texting, which I love that idea of texting. Laura asked if the teachers use their personal cell phones for the texting.
So, I mean, some may, but most end up getting a Google Voice number that they can call or text. Remind. I mean, there are a lot of apps that you can text and not use your own phone number. There's a lot. WhatsApp. I mean, I think there's a lot of different things that you can use.
During orientation, I try to get them to put my office number and my Google number in their phone. But again, regardless of whether you do that, they still will not pick up. I don't know why. But I mean, they will answer your text and then they'll pick up. I guess maybe, I don't know, but you're right. Texting is vitally important and seemed to be even more so since the pandemic. And I'm not really sure why, but.
Yeah, because I think it's a necessity. Yeah. And oftentimes we will text first and tell them this is so-and-so from Wake Tech.
Right. Yeah.
And that has been more effective also because people call, sometimes they'll pick up, sometimes they don't. And we too use the voice number, or I'm sorry, the Google Voice number to try to protect teachers and administrators or staff's phone numbers. Yeah. I also think that some of the student supports have helped students be successful because they were able to stabilize some things they were going through, then they could be more successful educationally because so many students and staff, all of us have been in survival mode for so long with things. So, but communication, I think, is top. I think student supports has been there. And I think also the flexibility of teams to change to these tides, and create things as they could. For us, it was getting our testing online so that we could test students or register them, as well as getting Crossroads online. But I also think that COVID gave us some opportunities to do some other things. I don't know about all of your programs, but we were shocked when we could get so many students online, and it really helped our distance ed piece. What would have taken us months or years to do, and I think that was just a huge progress. We also found that, I don't know about all of you, but our afternoon programming online was stronger than any of our seated programming almost ever. And we also found that students were dual enrolling. They were dual enrolling more. They were doing more hours in doing multiple classes than they had in the past. So I think some of those things also helped us with the MSG gains.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right.
Matthew's muted.
Matthew, we can't hear you.
All right. So I read that very well, though. Brunswick, Coastal Carolina, and Stanley have each seen a high MSG rate among ABE students. Are there specific strategies that you have implemented to boost the success rates of those students?
I'll answer. We've talked about a lot of it, right? But when I made a few quick notes to talk about for this question, post-testing students, and we said this, not only when they met the hours, but when they're test ready, right? So yes, constantly keep track of your hours, but check with your instructor to see if they're test ready. And that's important because if they don't make that gain, you're starting all over again. So important, track the hours, but make sure the student is test ready. Again, the constant contact with instructors, advisors. Our advisors know every single student by name, by face. They call, they text. We have students in this office constantly just coming in to, talk about their day, tell us how they're doing. And it's because of that contact with the coordinators and especially the advisors. And we have been very successful with boot camp style classes. And we see a much higher MSG rate for those classes. They don't work for every student, they don't work in every program that we have, but those that will sign up to take a boot camp style class, the MSG numbers are much higher after the class is done. For instance, we have a math class that meets Monday through Thursday, 12:30 to 4 weeks. Pre-test before, post-test after, our gains are usually 60, 70 or higher %. So
Okay,
we have
I don't know if y'all can hear this. We're having a fire drill.
I can hear it.
You are.
I'll be back in a minute. Oh, it's
Okay.
never mind, I'm back. Okay.
So again, those, I love those type of classes. They don't work for every student in every program, but when you can do them, they're really successful.
We're really.
We try to get
Gilda had a question. How do you assess to determine if they are test ready? Communication with the instructor. Our instructors know where their students are at, what they tested at, what level they're at. So really it's communication with your faculty to see if they feel the student is test ready. I'd rather wait another 15, 20 hours than have to wait another 60, 70 hours.
I did something that my students considered very radical, and I got a lot of feedback from it, but it's worked. I separated out, we're a small program, and so we're not fortunate enough to do reading ABE as a class or math ABE as a class. As a matter of fact, our HSE and our ABE students were all more or less in the same class, and it just wasn't working. We weren't seeing results, so I pulled them apart. If they're working on those ABE skills and really trying to get those fundamentals down, but they're not ready to test, they're in a separate class where I do something. I was a public school teacher before I became part of the CCR program, and I did targeted interventions. Our instructors, you're having trouble with decimals, guess what you're working on today? And I mean, it's very targeted per student, and that has really helped those ABE students grasp those early skills that have showed up in their MSG gains. And a lot of them are moving on now to that HSE class. The HSE class is just for students who are actively pursuing that test. and it's taught differently. You know, it's all test prep kind of things, test taking strategies, that type of thing. And I was really worried about it at first because some of the students had been in the same class for quite a while and just weren't, you know, seeing any improvements. But once I ripped the Band-Aid off and said, you're going to be over here and you're going to be over here, and we're going to, you know, really make sure that you're getting what you need, everybody's pretty happy with it now. I'm thrilled with it because our numbers look really good. And I think it's really working out. But here again, I have wonderful instructors who don't mind saying, I've got this lesson for Dan and Michelle. They're really having trouble with fractions, and we're going to really concentrate on that. And it has really worked out. I mean, it's been a very positive thing for us.
Utilizing the strengths of your instructors is key as well, because everybody has their strengths and weaknesses.
Yep.
So even though they can teach every subject, they may have, you know, their strength may be math or their strength may be English. So, you know, another might be English. And so you can, like, as you said, target where the student is having the most difficulty and match them up with the instructor that's going to do the best with them.
Absolutely.
And we also try to immediately, if they have a really high reading score, you know, most of the time with these, you know, at least at Brunswick, math is their nemesis all the time. But if their reading score is really, really good, we try to get them to immediately take test as well. So that they can feel that, you know, that they've accomplished something quickly. And that keeps them coming even through the bad stuff that they don't like, you know, and it'll be a point where you can post-test them and hopefully keep them engaged long enough where they'll actually graduate as well.
Absolutely.
So,
you know,
the
positive reinforcement goes a long way. Yeah. And I think that's one thing CCR students across the board need. They didn't have a good experience with school to begin with. So, you know, they're coming in to our programs with all these preconceived notions. If they can have a positive experience right off the bat, you have a much better chance of retaining them until they graduate.
Mm-hmm. And I also try to go to where they are for that post-test, because we have classes all over the county. So, you know, in a perfect world, they'd all come to me, but they can't. I mean, we live in a large county as well. So I try to go to them. And I do on-the-spot testing. So if somebody comes up, you know, teacher emails me or calls me and says, so-and-so is ready to test, I really think we need to get this done now. I mean, I'll set up a test session for just that one student the very next day at whatever time they can do it. Right. It's not necessarily always about my schedule. You need to go to them. And that seems to help a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, I think you have a question from the chat about, I believe the boot camp courses.
Yeah.
Are they membership or regular contact hours?
Those are contact hour classes because they really don't fit in the purview of any of the membership classes.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Thank y'all. All right. So then the next one, Rowan Cabarrus and Wake Tech have each seen high MSG rates among ESL students. Are there specific strategies you have implemented to boost the success rates for those students?
I think that the things that have been successful are the things that we've been talking about here. Obviously, the clear communication and also outreach. That outreach has been really important. Collaboration to navigate this change, to make a plan and to move forward. I feel like the personalizing of some of our testing, we do use the Best Plus and it is administered one-on-one, so that gives us an additional connection with the student. On the flip side, it's tricky to get it scheduled sometimes. I do believe we have several touch points with students. We track the data and attendance hours very, very closely. That's why I feel like the data and assessment are married. They both give us a lot of information, not just to make data-driven decisions and to look at our programs to see what's working and what isn't working, but also for those testing hours. And I totally agree, Michelle, with what you said about making sure the student is ready. Just because they've hit the hours doesn't mean that they are ready at times, especially your low-level ESL students. And I think that all plays together, which tails off of each other. I also think being accessible to some of the student names that Megan had mentioned, whether it's providing seated programming, the bulk of our classes are still online. We've been a little bit slower to open back up, but last October we did begin our first seated classes, and that was a result of students just saying we can't get online, despite the tech support we provided, or a laptop donation that we got, or loaner laptops to students. They just couldn't get online, and so we said, okay, let's open up limited and see what we can do. And I think that's helped us as now we're looking at opening up more broadly. I also think our teachers, I can't say enough to the teachers and to the supervisors that I work with, because they're just incredible professionals. I'm sure like many of your teams as well. They've been resilient. They've had to navigate a lot. Some of our teachers have had to change platforms 3 different times. That's a lot. That is a whole lot. I also think that the community that they create with their students, I felt like sometimes our teachers need a little bit more support because of the stories and the challenges and the crisis that their students were going through that they then were taking on as well. So I think our teachers have been the rock stars here, as well as our students, because they've made a commitment to do this. So I think that those are some of the things that I would identify, again, and I did mention earlier that getting Best Plus testing online, being able to do that and to train up a team to do testing or post-testing as well as pre-testing last May and June, as well as being able to get Crossroads up and going online, that helped us significantly.
I don't think that our Rowan Cabarrus panelist is here today. Has anybody seen her?
No.
So that was really a question for Janine. Does anybody else have any input on ESL?
Our ESL students are, I guess because of where we live, we're on the coast, so they tend to move a lot and move around a lot. So I try to capture them as quickly as possible. We really have a window of opportunity here at Brunswick with ESL. And especially once it starts to really get warm, they tend to move to other areas. We have that issue with a lot of our students just because but I try to capture them as quickly as possible, if it is possible. We really tried to work on the communication with our ESL students as well. Of course, it's a little more difficult, obviously, but utilizing our ESL teachers is key. They feel more comfortable with them.
Megan, you also sparked something. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, one thing that we've done, and it's worked really well with ESL, is to truly explain why we pre and post test and why it's so important to us. And especially to like our Burlington English students that are online, like they know how much we pay for that seat because we tell them in a nice way. But, we don't ask for a whole lot back other than that post test. And it really has made a difference when we explained why and tell them, this is a free class. We're paying for this $100 seat. We're paying your instructor. This is all we ask from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the two of you just sparked 2 other things that came to mind. I also think rigor, our students attend class an average of 10 hours a week. That also helped us get to MSGs. We also had the language line, which is a translation line that the college invested in so that when we have speakers that we don't have a staff member that speaks that language, and it can't all fall to one staff member. the language line is used not just in CCR, but throughout the college. And it's a number that you dial. I'm sure many of you are familiar. It's a number you dial, and then there's a translator that can help if a student's got some registration questions, or they don't understand, or there's an issue in their classroom, or a variety of different things. And I also think that, right, explaining to students that we don't use the word free anymore. We say grant funded. That was a big shift for us. But then also saying that when you pay for your seat is with your attendance and with getting a game and testing with us. This is how we can keep the program going, based on what you're learning. And so, again, I think open conversations about that is important because they want to give back. They're very grateful for the opportunities that they've been given. And this is a way that they can do that.
Especially the ESL students, absolutely so grateful.
Yes.
And tell them, if you're going to move, if you're going out of country, if you get a job, please let us know beforehand. And they do. And then we, like Megan said, we rush to test them, right? Wherever they're at, so we can get that post-test in if they've got the hours.
All right, so what are the elements of the student experience that most assure a student will enroll, show up for class, and ultimately finish the course? This is a question for all of you.
A positive experience.
Mm-hmm.
A teacher that cares, them feeling like they're wanted, that they're welcome, that we care. Just that little bit makes a tremendous difference.
Absolutely.
Student services come into our orientation on the first day of orientation to also welcome the student and to explain to them things that can occur, during and then after graduation, so that it makes them also feel like a part of the college.
Right.
That's really important. And again, explaining everything thoroughly in the orientation as well.
Right.
Getting the test quickly if they're ready to take an HSE test. And again, really, I think explanations makes a huge difference to this population and not just kind of springing stuff on them. So, I try to make sure that they understand what's expected of them immediately.
Right.
So that way, when I'm calling them or texting them, they're not like, what are you talking about? What's a post-test? They already know what that means. I might need to remind them, but that, and they're like, oh yeah, you did tell me about that. And they seem to be a little more receptive to things if they kind of know about them ahead of time.
Right.
But also, like I said, having our student services become a part of our orientation process, the students really enjoy that.
Oh yeah.
So.
And we talked about good instruction in the very beginning, but I mean, we all know that's key, right? Good instruction, variety of teaching methods, guest speakers from, WIOA or the college or,
Right.
but you want to make sure the students want to come in class, and feel valued while they're there. And I think we all do that, and we definitely strive to do that.
One of the things our orientation instructor does that was her idea, but I just love it. She walks them all down to our student services area and has their student ID made. So they automatically have that Stanley Community College ID as if, like any other student. It doesn't say CCR, it doesn't say anything like that, but they have that college ID, and it's amazing how they're just like, look at my ID. And I'm like, yeah, you're 45, that's great, yay. But I mean, you've got your college ID. It just makes them feel just that much more a part of the bigger campus.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Are there any questions from anybody for any of us?
Yeah, that was Gilda mentioned that the real term for what our classes are is tuition waived.
I love that.
That's the term that we use in the system office for lots of classes where they are free, but ours are always have been tuition waived. We've never really used that term.
Mm-hmm.
I think the next slide is just asking for general questions from the attendees for the panelists. So do we have any other questions we'd like to ask them? I guess if we don't have any other questions, do any of the panelists have questions for each other? So I'd like,
if other colleges are interested in getting the language line, how do they go about doing that?
I'd be happy to share information about it. As Michelle, you know, it started out here in CCR, a benchmarking project, and then the police department security decided that it would be a great thing for our college wide to have. And but I would be happy to share that. You can probably also Google it because it is called Language Line.
Yeah.
And it's not really expensive.
Yeah.
It was because you walk in different places and you see some of the signs or the badges at the hospitals or different places. So yeah, I'd be happy to share that. And I love brainstorming just in general with people. And so I appreciate the times that I've been able to reach out to some of you on this call for questions or what do you think about this? Because there's so many ideas and out there, and we really have to figure out which ones are going to be the most beneficial for our population of students. And there's so many variables in those decisions. So, yeah.
We do have a question in the chat. Penny Waycaster has asked if you have any professional development ideas for instructors in order to stress MSGs.
I think it's the first step before that, I think, is to do a professional development for your instructors to fully grasp the whole idea of MSGs, WIOA, 13 considerations, because there's a lot to it. And especially for any instructor that has been around a long time, you know, things changed in the past several years. So I would start my professional development with really, you know, teaching your team about college and career readiness, what it is today, how we're funded, and performance measures. That's where I would start.
We also have through Moodle, through the professional development department at the system office, on-demand training called Introduction to Title II Performance and Accountability, which explains how we're funded, and it's really professionally put together. It only takes about an hour. So we think that all of your instructors should take that as a basis of how our funding works. But Lori Weston also has a great idea. She says that the dashboards are available in a slide format, and they're great for using when you meet with your teachers. And explaining how we're funded helps teachers understand where we are coming from. Yeah, teachers need, one of the most important things is that they understand how the funding works.
Right.
And doing data dives with your faculty is very eye-opening as well, especially for those that they're new or just don't understand.
Yep.
The core training also has two different weeks where we talk about MSGs and WIOA in general and how WIOA plays into the programs.
Yeah, so you're pointing out that we think you should require our Intro to Title II Performance and Accountability.
Just like we talked about students needing to understand the pre and post testing piece and our grant funded or tuition waived classes, it's important for our instructors to know about how we're funded and some of those requirements.
So Lori Weston is asking if the core training is scheduled for this program year. The answer is yes, but we haven't gotten the contract signed with the VLC yet, so we can't announce it. But we're planning on one starting in August, so we're hoping that that gets signed soon.
Good.
So Beatrice White says she's a new college instructor here, and she wants to know how someone who is new can help students with MSGs.
Teach the content standards.
Good instruction.
Take a look at the information given after they take their pretest, during orientation or however you do it. Really take a look at it so that you can see where the students' strengths and weaknesses lie. They'll get bored real fast if they're learning stuff they already know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You might have students all at the exact same level, but their needs are going to be different. So you really do need to look at the diagnostics for each individual student.
Yep.
So I don't see any more questions. If we don't have any more, we'll give everybody back 8 minutes and 54 seconds of their day. But I'd like to thank all of the panelists for their willingness to present. You guys did a great job, and I apologize for my rainy day internet issues at the beginning. Thank you, Matthew, for taking over. It's the second time he's had to do that for me in a week. All this time during the pandemic, it's only the second time that I've had a problem, but in the last week. So thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.